Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome again to the Stoner Report. I'm Marius Stoner. Still seems to have a problem with the sound on the intro. I thought I'd fix that. I actually did. But nope, still got to work on that. Didn't make it last week. I'm sorry, I was under the weather. Couldn't do it. So yeah, I'm glad you could join me. I'm here at 307 West Hastings. The set is a little different because I'm in my office today. It's a little bit easier to do it, and everybody else is away in Spain doing Spain stuff. So yeah, Mark and Enrico and Jeremiah and Jody and Al the Alchemist and even Greg went, Marijuana Man. So yeah, I hope they're having a great time. Here's a shout out to them in case they're watching. So thanks for joining me. We're still in the last few days of summer here in Vancouver. It's kind of sunny today, though, you know, it's a little chilly outside. It's getting cooler, but it's still pretty nice. Yeah, we're pretty happy here. So thanks for joining me. I'll start with the news then. Okay, there's a couple of stories here from last week as well, because I missed last week. So, Farm assists Halifax medical marijuana lounge raided by police. Gottingen Street Lounge had welcomed licensed marijuana users. Halifax Regional Police arrested two men as officers raided the city's first medical marijuana lounge Friday afternoon. The Gottingen Street Lounge, called Farm Assists, welcomed licensed medical marijuana users to vaporize their marijuana using smokeless devices that don't burn the plant, but instead toast it to release the active THC. Police raided and searched the lounge Friday afternoon. Officers arrested two men, aged 19 and 40, and seized marijuana, cash, and drug paraphernalia. Jerry Randall came by the store Friday afternoon, but found it shut and flooded with police. He uses the medicine to treat his epilepsy. There's a lot of people here who this is their lifeline to a normal life, he said. I've tried all kinds of pills to stop the seizures, and I still had the seizures. The only thing that made me not have a seizure completely is cannabis. So yeah, there's a couple more stories on that. Marijuana Lounge Farm Assist to partially reopen after raid. Lounge gathers sympathy from marijuana activists across the country. The owner of Halifax's first medical marijuana lounge says he plans to reopen part of his store on Tuesday morning despite being shut down in a police raid and charged with trafficking marijuana. Christopher Enns, who owns Farm Assists, and his fiancée Sherry Reeve were charged with drug trafficking, possession for the purpose of trafficking, breach of an undertaking, proceeds of crime, and production of a controlled substance after the lounge was raided on Friday. A 40-year-old Timberlake man, an employee of Farm Assist, was also charged. Enns was released from custody on Monday afternoon under conditions limiting him to the terms of his Health Canada medical marijuana license, meaning he cannot produce, possess, or use marijuana under any other circumstances except as his license allows. He's due back in court on September 29th. I think for this afternoon will remain closed, but I'm sure at least the hemp shop and the vapor lounge will be back open tomorrow morning, Enns told reporters after he was released Monday. The dispensary for now will remain closed. And one more. Farm Assists marijuana lounge in Halifax partially reopens. Christopher Enns not selling marijuana from dispensary section. The owner of Halifax's first medical marijuana lounge stayed true to his word and reopened part of his store Tuesday morning, despite being shut down in a police raid and charged with trafficking marijuana. Christopher Enns, who owns Farm Assists, and his fiancée Sherry Reeve were charged with drug trafficking, possession for the purposes of tracking breach of entry, proceeds of crime, production, controlled substance, and after the lounge was raided last week. Looks like they repeated part of their story. Enns was back in Gottingham Street shop, and the doors reopened at about 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday. This is my community, and I'm not willing to watch it die just shrivel away, he told CBC News. I'm going to protect my child and make sure it's here tomorrow. Enns said he will continue to sell smoking-related products and is open for patients to come in and vaporize their own marijuana. For now, he said he is not selling marijuana from the dispensary section of the store. So good luck to you, Christopher. I hope things work out there, and we'll keep everybody posted on what happens there. Colorado retail marijuana sales finally beat medical. Retail sales have lagged medical sales since pot shops opened on January 1st, fueling concern that projected tax revenues would fall short. Sales of legal retail marijuana have topped sales of medical marijuana in Colorado for the first time since the state's recreational pot shops opened their doors on January 1st. According to tax figures released by the Colorado Department of Revenue. During the month of July, the state received $838,711 from a 2.9% tax on medical marijuana, meaning that patients spent an estimated $28.9 million at dispensaries. The state, meanwhile, raked in $2.97 million from a 10% sales tax on retail marijuana, putting those sales at about $29.7 million. According to calculations by the Cannabis. Though that amounts to less than $1 million gap between retail and medical sales, this is a small victory for champions of legalization who have argued that the experiment will be profitable for the state, as revenues have lagged behind some expectations. Most adults use marijuana for the same reason as they use alcohol. Now that it's a legal product, they are choosing to access it in a similar fashion, Mason Zvert, Communications Director for the Marijuana Policy Project, said. For most Coloradians, buying marijuana in a retail store will just become the norm. It appears that shift in behavior is already taking place. Democratic candidate for governor says legalize medical marijuana in Ohio. If you're like 87% of Ohio voters, you think people should be able to use marijuana as medicine, but nearly all your elected officials disagree with you. Enter Ed Fitzgerald, the struggling Democratic candidate for governor. Fitzgerald supports legalizing medical marijuana, he told the Inquirer Wednesday, breaking with nearly all Republicans and most Democrats in a stance that could help give his campaign energy among younger voters. There are people that are suffering from conditions that medical marijuana can alleviate, especially those chronic pain types of conditions, Fitzgerald said in a telephone interview. I just think it would show a real lack of compassion if we would continue to deny them that access. Governor John Kasich, who has a 6 to 19-point lead over Fitzgerald in the independent polls, says he opposes legalizing medical marijuana because the overall medical community has remained reticent on the issue. That's the stance all Republican officials and most Democrats have taken, hesitant to endorse what's viewed in some circles as complicity with drug use. So Fitzgerald's support likely won't be enough for Ohio to change course and join 23 other states that have legalized medical marijuana, said Ethan Nadelman, executive director of the Drug Policy Alliance, which supports medical marijuana legalization. It's also nice to have candidates for statewide office endorse the legalization of medical marijuana, but I don't see that it's going to make much of a difference now. From what I understand about the state of the gubernatorial race in Ohio, Nadelman said of Fitzgerald's stance, I think we most need to see is John Kasich come out in support. More than 2,000 apply to use medical marijuana in Illinois. More than 2,000 people registered for Illinois medical marijuana identification cards in the first 3 days of applications, dwarfing the number of the program's administrators had envisioned, the state announced Friday. Authorities began taking electronic applications Tuesday from patients whose last names start with the letters A through L. For those people able to register through October 31st, officials had expected just a few hundred applications in the opening days, the Illinois Department of Public Health said without specifying the number of applicants. This is a promising sign that the program is on track to fulfill its key purpose, alleviating the pain and suffering for thousands of Illinoisians, said Bob Morgan, the chief of the state's medical cannabis pilot program. Others can apply in November and December, but any patients and caregivers can apply starting next year. Patients must have a written certification from a doctor and get a background check, then pay $100 a year to apply for a medical marijuana card. Disabled people and veterans will pay $50 annually. Melanie Arnold, a spokeswoman for the state health department, said that while the registrations in the application period's infancy are obviously higher than forecast, it is not something we can't handle. The system is working well, she said, noting that the demand for the program should become clearer in about a month. It's always difficult to speculate and estimate how many are going to apply. Hundreds of thousands of Illinoisans are eligible for medical cannabis cards with debilitating conditions. And I'm not sure. I think my... there it goes. It's a couple of minutes late, though. I'm not sure why. It says 2:22. So happy 4:20 to everybody in the Central Mountain time zone. Hope you're high up there. I'm going to get high here now. Had a joint ready this time. Pardon me. So yeah, things are pretty, we're pretty happy here with Mark back. Everything's pretty smooth. Yeah, like I said, they're away in Spain right now. I haven't been around very much. I've been kind of sick at home. But, so I don't know what's been going on. You know, anything could have happened. But it looks like looks like nothing happened. Everything's pretty normal. Okay. Back to the news. California City mandates free medical marijuana for low-income residents. Weed welfare? That's what the Berkeley City Council in California has unanimously approved, ordering medical marijuana dispensaries to donate 2% of their stash to patients making less than $32,000 a year. A new welfare program in the liberal-leaning city is set to launch in August 2015. Excuse me a sec. The ordinance, which passed in August, is the first of its kind in the country, which comes at a time when several states are debating how to handle a growing movement to legalize marijuana for both medical and recreational use. But Berkeley's decision to effectively order weed distribution is prompting a vocal backlash. Bishop Ron Allen, a former addict and head of the International Faith-Based Coalition, told Fox News he doesn't understand why the California city would want to dump pot on the impoverished. And if you go to our site, you might want to watch that interview. It's actually pretty good for Fox News. Mason Tvert is the other speaker, and the host actually congratulates him in the end for a well-played argument, which is a lot more than can be said for the other guy, Bishop Ron Allen. So yeah, check that out on our front page. It's actually pretty decent for Fox News. The Tasmanian Health Minister, Michael Ferguson, backs cannabis trials. After rejecting an application for a trial 2 months ago, Michael Ferguson tells an inquiry he would support a clinical trial. Tasmania's Health Minister supports trials of medical cannabis in the state, he has told a parliamentary inquiry. Michael Ferguson rejected a bid for a trial in the state in July, raising health and security concerns, but told an upper house committee on Monday a trial could be possible if subject to strong regulation. The committee is examining legalized medical cannabis, and the Liberal government has made its submission. We support appropriately conducted clinical trials, feeding into the existing national medicines regulatory framework, Ferguson said in a statement. We will objectively consider any proposal regarding a trial of medicinal cannabis on a case-by-case basis. Ferguson said the government supported the potential use of medical cannabis, but it must be subject to an evidence-based approach and strong regulatory frameworks. Decriminalization of personal drug use under review by Liberal Democrats in the United Kingdom. Policy paper due for discussion at next month's party conference also proposes an open market in cannabis. The Liberal Democrats are looking at the decriminalization of all drugs for personal use and allowing cannabis to be sold on the open market. Launching his party's draft election manifesto, Nick Clegg, the Deputy Prime Minister, said the party would consider such options after they were advocated in a policy paper due to be discussed at the Liberal Democrat conference next month. Launching his party's draft election manifesto, Nick Clegg, the Deputy Prime Minister, The paper said the Liberal Dems will adopt the model used in Portugal, where those who possess drugs for personal use will be diverted into other services. The Southern European country decriminalized personal possession of all drugs in 2000. The document also said the party welcomes the establishment of a regulated cannabis market in Uruguay, Colorado, and Washington state. And finally today, UK hemp crop set for harvest Thursday, so that would be yesterday. One of the first legal hemp crops in the state under the new federal law will be harvested Thursday morning at the University of Kentucky's Spindletop Research Farm near Kentucky Horses Park. Okay, the UK confused me. This is not United Kingdom. This is the University of Kentucky. UK is working with the state agriculture department to grow hemp under a program established by the federal farm bill. Otherwise, cultivating hemp is illegal. After initial concern that the government delay releasing the seed would limit growers' ability to harvest a good crop, seeds were obtained and planted around Memorial Day. All right, and you can go and read the rest of that article online. It goes on to say how they've just sort of... This doesn't really make sense because the guy was explaining how they just sprouted and it was too soon to tell what to do with them, and yet they're about to harvest it Thursday. So it's a bit of a confusing story. You might want to check it out and figure it out for yourself. So that's the cannabis news for this week. Thank you for joining me. Good luck to everybody out there in Spain. Keep an eye out for Pot TV. I'm not sure exactly what they might be producing. Also, there's Marijuana Man TV, which is something that Greg is into right now, and we're kind of doing cooperative ventures with them. So anyways, check them out, and thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next week. Till then, don't forget, marijuana is the most advanced plant on the planet, and we're going to use it to save the world and save ourselves. All right, take care. See you next week.